Good morning, good morning, everyone. Russell Wright, Network Empire, themezoom.com. This is the SkyFall update. It's really good to see all you guys. We're just getting settled in. We've got the entire Network Empire team. As you guys know, it's not like us to be so dramatic, but it is kind of dramatic. It's interesting, at the least. Perhaps it's just time to be talking to you guys about web security and the rest, which is kind of good timing. We're on the call with Jimmy Kelley, Kevin Pauly, Matt DeCruz, myself, and of course our fearless leader and military-level software architect, Sue Bell. And today we're going to be talking about the update that we're codenaming SkyFall. And that is a Network Empire theme zoom codename. It is not official Google. It's not based on any of the patent engineers or anything like that, where a lot of the other updates came from. I'd like to say hello first before we begin. Each and every one of you on the call. I'm going to honor all of the certification guys. Sorry, I've got a lot of stuff going on here. I'm just going to open up. I think Kevin, myself, and anybody else who's not speaking will be monitoring questions. Steve, can you hear me? Steve Melton, saying you cannot hear me?
Give us a 1 if you can hear us.
Can everybody please give me a 1? Let's get active here. Okay, good. Hi, Kevin.
Smell the coffee.
Oh, we're all good, yeah. I'd like to say hello to each and every one of you certified advisors. Steve Melton, Joseph Hannon, Vincent Hahn, it's good to see you. How come you only come around when there's emergencies, Vincent? Bradley Benner. Kevin, I'm just kidding, Vincent. I'm messing with you. You're awesome. I'm just teasing you. It was really great to have you at the live event. Kevin McCarthy, it's good to see you. We've noticed you've been poking around in the OMG group when we have hovered over there off and on. Steve must be having a difficult time. He's going to log back on. Okay, we have a few more people rolling in. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the objective. Our objectives for the SkyFall update is to clarify and verify the massive number of finally approved Google patents that are all pointing to a similar thing. There's a degree of patent integration that are, I would say, echo effects and compound effects and new tremors that enhance, integrate, and deploy more effective methods of panda-penguin integration. In fact, it's a little bit of a misnomer to call this panda or penguin, because what's happening is Sue calls it a potentiometer. I don't know if you guys know electronics. A potentiometer is like one of those, sometimes in your dining room you have one of those lamps that you turn that circle and it gets brighter or less bright based on how you turn it. In electronics, that's called a potentiometer. A lot of what Google rolls out is boiling the frog slowly. Okay, in other words, you don't wipe out everything all at once. You tweak, you fail, you succeed, you continue to tweak, you turn off the potentiometer, you roll things out, and then what happens is the methods and the tactics that are being used out there slowly get kind of boiled off, and suddenly you'll find, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Sue, since it's a private meeting, PBNs. PBNs, as we know it, are just not going to, they're not sustainable with these things that we've been seeing in terms of the old model, the old way of doing things. For a variety of reasons, we're going to provide you with solutions, and you guys are certified advisors, so we have never taught private blog networks. Everybody knows that. Just give me a 1 for a confirmation and say amen. We've taught, private personal brand broadcasting methods. We're speaking because we have a lot, our tendrils, move out into a variety of different communities, including OMG, people that we care about in all those communities that are hyper-focused on private blog networks, which there are things that can be done depending upon the size. We just want to make sure that, we really thought as a team, do we go ahead and get into this, and how do we get into it? So what we decided is to get feedback, clarification, suggestions from people that we trust the most, that's you, and, get feedback, because we have come out of the gates with kind of a doomsday call letter for this, and that's because literally the old method of PBN, it really is that kind of scenario for anybody exposing certain aspects of the network in this way. And what's happening is that a lot of people are doing this and not even knowing it. And it's very innocent. In fact, Sue was laughing at me this morning about something that I was doing. And I didn't think it was funny at all. So she offered, we offered a correction. So there's a lot of best practices and things that I don't build private blog networks, so what I was doing was not a big deal. But if you are actually building large-scale PBNs that don't have any traffic and don't update content, and they're just simply designed to pass juice, as Jimmy will get into with you, and you're not taking the things into account that we're talking about, the sky will be falling for you if it hasn't already. People like No Hat Digital took a 36 blog hit. There's guys out there building the old method of PBNs, and they're starting to.
We know guys with literally hundreds of PBNs.
Yeah, and today we're gonna show you why I believe that we're probably the first people on the planet to reveal this publicly. You guys are not really public. I have not seen anything. I've parsed probably 1,000 pieces of content to try to find anybody else who's even has a clue about why some of this is going on. If we didn't have Jimmy Kelley, Sue Bell, I promise you, I would not have known it went this deep. I would just laughed until we started checking it out. So thank you so much, Sue. We'll open it up, and I'll step back and answer questions. Thank you so much. I want to, first of all, thank my team for all being on this call at different time zones all around the world. Kevin in the UK, Matt in South Africa. Thanks, guys. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the certified advisor's time as well. So let me just say this is more than just PBNs. This is link building in general. Any particularly automated link building, anything that's going to leave a footprint. We'll get into exactly what those footprints are, exactly what it is that they're looking at. So let me just talk for a moment about patents. You can see this is the patent. We've got 2 patents in question that we're going to talk about today. This is the one we're going to spend the most time on. So the patent was actually filed on January 6, 2012, and it was approved September 2nd, 2014. So you don't get to hear about the patent until it's actually approved. It doesn't go up on the website. You can't see it. You can't find out about it, and that's to protect the person that's submitted the patent. So the interesting thing is that it usually takes Google, it takes about 18 months usually to get a patent approved, and it usually takes about 18 months for Google to be able to create the code that's required for the patent and implement it. I don't know if they're simply that slow to write the code, or if they time it that way so that the patent hits about the same time as the code does. Now, I think that this code has probably been running for the last 3 or 4 months. Matt Cutts came out last spring and said specifically that they were going to be targeting PBNs, and I think that this is the code, the patent behind this code is what he was referring to, Matt and a few others. There was also one that came out in the spring that was the precursor to this, which we found first, but this one goes into a lot more detail. So I want to do a couple of things. I actually want to start with showing you the implication of footprints. We did a little bit of that in the live event, but we've got a couple of tools today that really kind of show you what kind of footprints get left. I think I'd like to start with Russell talking about the light beam demo, because that was one thing that just kind of, both he and Jimmy were kind of blown away by what it showed, but Russ has got it open, so I think I'll just switch over to him. Are you ready to take that, Russ, and just do a quick demo? And so what this shows is when you as you browse the web, what gets communicated to what websites. I mean, you might think that you just hit a page and the only thing you're talking to is that particular page, but light demo, let me just grab that link and show you guys. This is a Mozilla plugin, so you guys can all download it and play with it. Let me throw it here in the links to everybody. This is a really fun thing to kind of see how much you're really leaving behind when you, or how much you're communicating when you hit a web page. Russ, are you there? He must be answering a question.
No, sorry, I was on mute and I didn't even know it.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so are you ready for me to change presenter to you? And
sure, yeah, I don't have anything highly classified up or otherwise pornographic.
Excellent.
Okay. Show my screen. Which screen am I showing, though?
You're not showing anything yet. Oh, there you go. You're showing the light beam screen.
I am? Okay.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like when you install it.
Yeah, it's just, guys, the only reason we're doing this is a very superficial discussion about what's really going on, but I think for neophytes like me that don't have the technical background that Jimmy and Sue, Kevin, and Matt have, I'm just being really straight for that. I handle the PR and the communication. I'm not the technical team. These guys are. This is a pretty good way for the neophyte beginner to begin to understand what's actually going on. So even, you can see that it's blank. What this plugin does, you can see this thing up in the sidebar. It just kind of gives you an idea that everything on the internet is being tracked. I mean, Kevin over beer was telling me for a whole day like what's really going on besides stuff when he was here, and Jimmy, and we've had these conversations, and I was just like, my head was swimming. But just to give you an example, regardless of your level of skill on this call, just when you just go to google.com through an open browser, just hit the search engine, you can go back and see what websites are informing what websites. An example, you can see google.com is informing gstatic, okay? And if you go deeper into other things, you'll see that every step around the way, even when you do a query, doesn't matter what that query is. I'm not sure if that actually pulled a new call, but no, I don't think that does. But sometimes you'll have stuff coming up, depending upon whether you're signed in or not signed in. It gets really interesting. You can see what is informing what based on what when you're zooming in, okay, or when you're set up. So, for example, I'm not logged in here. Just the act of logging in, for instance. Let me just go ahead and sign into one of my accounts here. I got to remember what my password is. But just when you're actually going to a particular thing, you'll see that everything starts to inform. And there was one particularly interesting point here is that it's leaving a lot of tracking footprints. I actually did not mean to be logged out when I was showing you this. Themes. Let me see what we got here. Has anybody ever seen this plugin? Kind of give you an idea of what's actually happening. Give me a 1 if you've seen this plugin while I find my password. I don't use this browser. 2 if you have not seen it.
No, we're getting people aren't familiar with it.
Okay, I'm just going to pull in though. Let's go ahead and just sign in under somebody else. I don't want to sign in with this one. So I'm just going to do a new login. Has everybody had their coffee this morning? I know that I've been up.
You know what? It's not actually morning anymore.
Oh, it's not? What time is it? What time is it?
Depends on the time zone people are in.
Really? Gosh, I'm having a really difficult. It's so late for me that I'm having a hard time logging in. Let me just hang on, you guys. So you can use Lightbeam to kind of see what's tracking what. You can see Google user content came up, gstatic come up. Wherever you're going, you can go to. I'm not even logged in. I'll try to get that here in a second. I don't use this browser. I don't have any passwords, but you can go to. You'll see that double-click comes up frequently. And anybody in here who knows double-click, give me a 1. So if you start clicking things around, you'll see who's informing who. And you'll start to see the sorted relationships just happening throughout the web. If you haven't used this before, you can see that Bing informs Facebook, Bing informs live.com. Google starts informing, as you begin to click around Google, and especially when you start to log in, it gets pretty creepy, what Google's informing. And I'm actually going to get you that login information here. Talk about something, see why I find my username and password.
Sure. So the thing that we're actually trying to demonstrate here is how much data Google actually tracks. Google's got a site called gstatic, and if you go to that site, it acts as though the site's not there, and that's because it's a database holding area. So stuff gets reported to it. It's got a whole bunch of documents on the site, and when you look at those documents, it's actually got sitemap.xml. So when you poke around the sitemaps and look at what's there, it's mostly got to do with AdWords stuff. So
yeah, we're going to get there here in a second. Okay, I'm logging in now, Sue.
Okay, it leads me to believe that that site is predominantly data stored with AdWords, but the interesting thing is how many times it gets talked to as you move across.
Oh yeah, okay, so I just logged in for an example, and you can see all of a sudden the conversation starts to get pretty huge when you log in. You can also go, what's kind of interesting, you can go right to your Google dashboard. It just gives you an idea that, I mean, we've always talked about, some of you guys I met at the live event are already pretty paranoid, so you're already using. Kevin has never liked Google Analytics. I don't think Jimmy has either. And of course we understand the reason. We understand. Kevin's always been like, what the fuck?
Seriously?
Seriously? Google Analytics, this was Kevin. Seriously, Google Analytics? But you know, this is, you can see that as I've gone to the Google dashboard, then things get really interesting. Google user content, YTM image, Google Analytics, okay? I haven't gone to any sites yet where Google Analytics is warranted, guys. Okay? We can start getting, I know that Jimmy, Kevin, Matt could get into these data packets. This is just for the layman. We're just giving you an overview of just what's going on. Just notice all I did was log into Gmail, and I'm on my dashboard. Does everybody understand that the dashboard was created? If you take my Google Plus course, it was created for the sole purpose of archiving and creating a central control panel to house all your behaviors, including any of your API, all of your related accounts, and they removed the social secondary and third relationships that were there as late as 2009. They're still there, you just don't get to see them. Okay, so there's a lot, we're talking about NSA level data that's being archived, and the point of Lightbeam is just kind of show you what's going on and that everything's being tracked. We haven't even been to a website yet. So another weird thing that Sue and I discovered is like, okay, when we logged into our WordPress blog, even in the admin panel, you can see, you know, just superficially the relationship starting to be built. You know, even beyond the idea that the MAC address patents of tracking individuals through the MAC address and, you know, besides the router issues and all that, I don't even know how much we're going to get into that today. But the whole point, okay, the whole point here, guys, is that this is like a superficial level of scary. It's already creepy, and we haven't even gotten into it with you yet. Okay, so the point would be that the kind of data that, you know, what's talking to what, you know, you can see that whenever you hit a site, the social media scripts and APIs starts speaking to the other.
Let's just show them that.
Okay.
Go ahead and clear your data and then do a refresh here.
A refresh on a page, Sue, or the index page?
Well, let's see if that pulled it up clearly enough.
Yeah, YouTube is informed. Let me see some other things that were informed. Yeah. Looks like just
why don't you clear this so that we can see it?
We'll reset that. If you guys have any suggestions of what you can put in. Yeah, Joseph said this was... Joseph is saying this is just the client side, not the deeper server side stuff.
Right.
I agree with you, and of course Kevin and Matt, everybody would say the same thing. Okay, so just make this fast. I'll just do a refresh. So this tool is kind of fun if you guys want to know who's informing who, and it's really fun to go to ad networks and see everything from DoubleClick to some of the biggest power players in the world are informing each other, because that's all a monetization-based circle. But one of the common strings is Google Analytics. Even in places where I haven't stuck Google Analytics, there's a relationship, and there's a relationship between Google Analytics and DoubleClick, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so I just did a refresh, and you can see just by hitting that single page on my blog as a dead drop, anything that the blog is dealing with, like a content delivery network, all of these are being informed. Okay, Network Empire News, this is to do with where we store images. Now, anytime you're using Google anything, there's this major relationship. Fonts.google.apis, if your themes are using that. If you've got plugins, anything related to Google that you have being integrated, Google Analytics, okay, there's Google Analytics that comes up again. A lot of the times you'll see google.ajax, if you go deeper in there. There's all kinds of opportunities there for them to be possibly dropping and pulling MAC addresses, because 100%, you guys, JavaScript is able to be used. We're not saying they are.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
So the thing that I really want to show at this point is how much is being communicated. Like, this is a site that we created. It was never our intention to communicate to that many sites information about what's going on this page.
Correct.
And if you're logged in, your login information is completely capable of going to Google Analytics, right?
You guys get that?
Does that make sense to everybody so far? Like, that's the thing that I really want you to grok out of this particular demo is how much communication is going on that you're not aware of on sites that you build. Give me a 1 if that makes sense. Give me a 1 actually if you're surprised by that, and a 2 if you kind of expected.
You guys already know all that stuff? This is basic. Give me a 1 if you, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So what was the question that you asked, Sue? There's a lot of 2s coming. They already know this stuff.
Yeah, they were pretty familiar with the idea that stuff is going on.
Yeah, it's kind of cool too if you use DuckDuckGo that it doesn't really track anything, or at least not obviously on the client side end. Okay. So you can take back control.
Okay, so now I'd like to pop over to Jimmy and have him do the demo. Are you ready for this, Jimmy? Mr. Kelley?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
I need somebody's, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so from the audience, I need somebody to just give me a domain that they own. Preferably, especially, let's see if you guys have done any PBN linking. Give me one of those. If you guys have or have not. Any domain. We need one volunteer.
Nobody wants to be on the hot seat.
Fear and trembling.
So you got a site Kevin's got a site that got dropped even so he's not done any linking to it.
All right, let's see. Can you give us that one, Kevin?
Yeah, we'll do Network Empire if nobody else comes forward. Is that okay if we use that one, Kev? Okay.
Oh, yay, because I need a new pair of heels.
I know you do. I saw the heels you were in on that Facebook image.
My heels are a disaster.
You stole my last pair of pumps.
I can tell you the reason it got dropped. No, just kidding. Because the manual reviewer was like, what?
It just takes a minute for this thing to run its thing.
Hey, Kevin, were you, Kevin McCarthy, were you, that sounds like, the work of a manual. Somebody was having a bad day. Huh, okay. Not a manual, no message. So maybe we should describe what it is that we're doing, Sue?
Sure. So Netcomer goes out and it takes a look at all of the inbound links.
Okay.
And it looks at the probability of those inbound links being related.
So, and this was built by someone that was on Matt Cutts' Inner Circle and the spam team back in 2009. Who kind of went out on their own and started doing this kind of thing. So some of you might have seen this site before along the way. But it's quite interesting how they're able to. See, and this is still loading here, but when it propagates a list, you can actually click on sites that you know are your competitors. But regardless, it gives you a score based off of how similar they are. So these are all sites related to the one that we put in from Kevin to show like how similar a probability they are. Okay, so this one came up as an 85%. Gotta stop clicking it. And you'll see down here, where'd it go? It has, it records your hosting, IP address, name server. It also goes as far as getting your emails. It's very similar to some of the stuff that you see on Christopher Kemper type tools. But this also can search by name or ID or email. can see here, it can pull back the email and some other things like that. So I think, you know, if this kind of tool exists out there, I mean, it gives you a pretty good idea that, you know, depending on how high your score is connected to the one that you're doing, if you're using these types of sites to backlink back to your money site, it's going to flag it. And we don't know what that kind of, what your range is yet, but it's just kind of interesting to see how just looking at some of these similarities can just start connecting the dots, which kind of leads us into the patent.
Yeah.
See, like on this one, it found the connection between these two as being your name servers, your IP address, your authority record, name server. So, something interesting.
So Kevin says that those sites are on shared hosting on HostGator. Now, do those sites link to each other, Kevin?
You could even put in like other ones, like let's see, we'll just put in like this.
So Kevin's saying that none of these sites link to each other.
Yeah, they might not link, but it finds common patterns through the web. See if I can pull back. I can't pull back any of mine. Let's see. Do one for Network Empire.
That'll be pretty.
Show me where they're hiding.
And most of these sites are going to link.
It doesn't have to necessarily be linking to each other, but you can see that, you know, based off of just relationship of all these things, that it's pretty easy to connect the dots of determining a network going to a money site, if that makes sense.
Kamar left a URL as well, so we do have another volunteer site using our stuff, which I'm not thrilled about using on this call.
The connectiveness is 98%.
That was intentional.
And you have some of these other ones all the way down. So basically this thing can go out and just kind of determine, you know, here's a person's name, here's a person's email, whatever. It can go out across the web and basically connect the dots for other sites that might belong to them. And then it gives it a score based off of what it finds.
Right.
There's links in hosting. So similar links right here.
Oh, that's interesting. I was looking at the Aweber form.
Yeah.
So just something interesting to play with. Just kind of, this kind of just really leads us into what we're talking about for the patent today. So, but it's a fun little tool if you're spying on competitors. Okay, so now what?
So let's go back to the patent for a minute. Make sure I got the right screen up. Good. So, do you guys want me to actually read the patent, or do you want me to just like give you a synopsis of what it's talking about?
One of the things that we want to do, you guys, most people just want interpretations. We're trying to get a sense. You guys are our most advanced students, so we want to get a sense of how this will be most effective to communicate to other people.
Were you guys? I'm just gonna say the patent, right? Were you guys surprised at all by what Jimmy was showing them? Give me a 1 if you were surprised, and a 2 if you weren't. All right, about 50-50. Okay, so to make a long story short, this patent starts to talk about the different ways that they're using to detect a network of links. So they're looking at individual documents or pages on sites as well as the site themselves. And they're looking for similarities via several different criteria. Let me just give you these criteria. So the first one is they're looking at the link graph. Okay, so that was kind of sort of, we've talked about that. We talked about that in live certification. And that's sort of what Jimmy was just showing on that demo. We're also looking at traffic patterns associated with the group of documents, the set of affiliated documents. So I should back up. They're doing two things here. They're coming up with a plurality of documents. What that means is a set of documents. Set of documents and websites. And then they're also looking at, within that set of documents, they're looking at the affiliation of the documents. So that means when you're looking at a set of documents that link to a website, they're going to group into associations. And there might just be one in a single association, just somebody decided they really liked your stuff and they put a single inbound link. And then there's going to be other things that are going to be affiliated with each other. For example, one of your associates might go out and write 2 or 3 blog posts on their blog. So that would be like a group of documents that are affiliated because they're all in the same blog. So they're looking for ways that there are affiliations within the set of documents that link to your website. Okay, so the first one is they're looking at the link graph structure. They look at the traffic patterns associated with this set of documents and the affiliated documents. And I would define traffic patterns as 2 different things. They're looking at the traffic, just simply how the traffic goes, and in particularly the lack of traffic that goes. Okay, and then also they would look for you and your traffic patterns. Okay, so is there traffic? No is a flag. Is there similar traffic? Like bot traffic. And are you trafficking these sites? Okay. And watching the traffic is easy because your IP address is in every single packet. And we'll get more into IP addresses and MAC addresses and that kind of stuff in a minute. So it's looking for a similarity of host names. So that's also what was just shown with, what's that software called? Netcomer. Identified easily. So then we're looking at similarity of IP addresses. Now this particular IP address, this is the IP address of the site. So if you're hosting, all your blog rings on a single IP, they're looking for that. But I mean that's old news, right? And then they're presenting information identified as a group down to a user. So this is logged in as Google or tracking the IP address. So if you like, Russ and I were playing for 2 or 3 hours this morning with that tracking tool. And when you're logged in as Google, every time you hit a site that's got that little Google Plus social media thingy, it pings Google and lets Google know that you're there because it's trying to pull back the number of people who have plussed it, and if any of them are your friends, right? Because if you hover over it, it says, you know, either you plussed this a while back or your friends have plussed it. So it's going and getting all kinds of information. So when I look at this, I'd say that one of the biggest flags that you can have is doing your inbound linking while you're logged into Google. Like, that's just a huge no-no. And then the other thing that it talks about is going into 3 levels of tiered documents to see if there's a footprint. And there's been talk about, you know, whether it's 2 layers or 3 levels, and this patent is definitely saying it's looking 3 layers back. So now, this patent goes into some really interesting things, and it does it very vaguely, which is kind of the part that really is interesting, because the way that I look at it is there's an 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the spammers out there are creating 80% of the mess on the SERPs. And so they're really after getting that 20% out of the SERPs. If you go all the way down, if you try to hit all of the guys that are doing inbound link spamming and get all of those people out of the SERPs, you're going to do the SERPs more of a disadvantage than you are an advantage, because you're going to take along with it people who are genuine. And you're going to take along with it people who are just trying to create a little bit of social buzz and maybe have a couple of associated blocks. So that's where Russell was talking about that potentiometer, where there's going to come a point where they're going to say, okay, that's enough. We got the worst of the guys out of the SERPs, and we're going to leave everybody else, even though there's still some guys out there that are doing things that we don't want them to do. They're against terms of service. But if we tighten it any further, we start throwing babies out with bathwater. So, but let's just take a look all the way down into what it is that they talked about. To just kind of get a feel for where they're headed. All right, so this figure is where they're talking about different authors. So if you're logged into Google and you're authoring stuff and you're admitting the fact that you're authoring it as a particular person, and there's a relationship between author A, author B, and author C, if in fact they're all the same IP address, let's say, then they're only going to count author A as being the one person that's actually putting those inbound links, and they're going to diminish the score overall of all of those links from author A. They talk about looking at networks and ranking components. They talk about, there's one in particular that I'm trying to get to here. Hang on. Just see if I can get more of this in here. All right, so this is really fascinating. They talk about input devices and output devices. This is actually talking about a computer. And if you stop to think for a moment about the fact that Chrome is an operating system that sits on your computer and it knows everything about your computer, then you realize how they can get into this level in a patent in terms of talking about tracking stuff. So if you have Chrome, probably either the browser or the operating system, they can definitely, the browser, there's no reason why the browser can't pull the computer for any piece of information like a MAC address that they would want to be able to identify what the computer is. Now, when we get to MAC addresses, so within an IP packet, within the communication that runs over the internet is called TCP/IP, and that communication is via what's called IP packets. And a packet is simply a container of information. And that container has a head which says where the packet originated from. It came from my computer. I'm going to this website over here, networkempire.com, and that's how it knows. That's how networkempire.com knows where to send the information back to. Okay, so there's a to address and a from address on an envelope. And the to address and the from address are IP addresses. The MAC address starts out my MAC address, typically for a packet to get from me to networkempire.com, which sits in Ohio. It's going to make at least 3 or 4 hops on a bad day. It could make 7 or 8 hops. And along each hop, your MAC address is actually substituted. So it starts out that my MAC address is the from MAC address, and my ISP is the to MAC address. When it gets to my ISP, that ISP becomes the from MAC address, and there's another to MAC address. So by the time you make it all the way to the web server for Google Analytics' front end could possibly pick up a MAC address and report it to Google, that information has been obfuscated. However, there's nothing that's stopping Google Analytics, since it runs via JavaScript, to simply query the browser and say, oh, by the way, could you tell me what your MAC address is, please? And your browser's going to go, yeah, sure, here it is. So that information can easily get stored in the gstatic because everything goes back to gstatic, okay? So I'm not saying that they are doing that. I'm saying that they could do that. I'm also saying that the level of doing that is going to like increase the cost. However, since they're working hand in hand with the NSA, they're probably already doing something along those lines, and therefore to use it to actually like figure out what the network spam is and to like curtail that wouldn't be a horrific additional cost. It's simply querying a large database. So
Okay, let's give a pause, Sue, for impact.
okay.
Okay, pause for impact. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you guys, I just want to check in with you because everybody's been really quiet, and we respect everything that you guys have to say. So, is everybody following this? Give me a 1. This is just a check-in. Give me a 1 if you're following what we're saying, and if you understand what we're implying, and a 2 if you're really fuzzy on what we're implying, and you're not, or you're not. Okay, people are asking why they're pissed. All right. Kevin McCarthy, we will go ahead and give you, we would never just say the sky's falling without giving you some results, okay? I realize that your time is very valuable, but we need you to understand you guys are important. It's important that you guys more than anything else understand why. I mean, I know I've done a little bit of heavy marketing on it by calling it this, but it's important for me that you guys understand why, because if we can't get the why through to you, then, I mean, actually how we get the why through to you is how we're going to be communicating it to everyone else. So that's why we're going through the why of it, Kevin. We will talk about best actions, okay? I promise. Okay, there's still a couple people still trying to get to the implications. Thanks, Kevin McCarthy. I really do want you to help me communicate it. So go ahead.
Okay, so now we get to this particular image, which is a great image, but it's completely obfuscated. And Jimmy's got a much better version of this image. Hang on a second. I think he showed it to me. Let me just see if I can bring this up. Hang on. SkyFall. There we go. So let's talk about this for a minute. You can see the similarities here, right? So here's the money site. And you've got just a couple of inbound links to the money site because you've bolstered these links, and you, sitting here at your computer, have actually logged in to all of these sites to bolster the domain authority or the page authority of these two sites that link to your money site, right? And over here, you've got additional sites that link to each other, as well as you can see a reference between a couple of these sites and a couple of those sites. So you can make an association between these two groups of sites. Does that make sense to everybody? So they're looking for linking structures as that initial. They're looking for linking structures. They're looking for logins. They're looking at your IP address. They're looking at the traffic to the documents. They're looking at the linking structure between the documents. They're looking to see where they're hosted. They're looking for the ownership, and they're looking for the email behind it. They're looking for the email when you log in, and they're looking for tiered document associations. Does that make sense? And so they're looking at a more elaborate web of footprints and indicators than what they have looked at before. Does that make sense to everybody? Give me 1 if that makes sense, and then 2 if that's a bit fuzzy.
And so the removal of the implication, I think there's nothing that we're implying. We're telling you directly that if you have people generating blogs on the same IP address and building networks out, think outsourcers, think whatever, on a large enough scale and with the right combination of data, we believe that if not now, I actually believe it's happening now. This is huge. You're going to have to start diversifying even at the level of these creation of these logins and of the development of these networks. You guys understand that? Have we said it?
I think so. So let me just see if there's anything else in these that I want to like.
Does everybody understand from that diagram why that could cause a problem for PBNs?
We need you to be. We're trying to see if you guys are able to get it by us being. And the reason we're being a little bit cagey is we're trying to actually see how much we have to say for you to see what we're saying about PBNs. If we have to come out and say, you know, PBNs are screwed or not.
So this document.
I can edit that out too if I need to.
Did you, Jimmy? Did you have a way of actually switching that around 90 degrees, or did you do something else to switch it around 90 degrees?
I pulled it up under the Google URL and did it that way.
Oh, cute. All right.
Because they just have a button that just flips the document.
Yeah,
Right.
on the Google search engine.
Need a background image? That's not what
Have they got one to the left top by the search button, Sue? Are those little arrows going to turn it?
No.
No.
No, they don't. They just forward and backward. They look like that a little bit. Open a new tab. Let's see if this does it. Is that it? And then I can switch it? This is a PDF. This isn't an image.
No, he's saying he actually looks at the patent in a different location. It's on Google Patent. You can just look up patent number 8825645 on Google Patent.
I was on the patent.
This is not the Google Patent Index. This is the PDF.
This is the government version.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go to where
Google's search engine for patents is far superior, yeah.
But you want me to put that link in there for you?
Yeah, please. Yeah, absolutely. We'll share this.
Yeah, Kamar's asked whether or not we would share these patents. Yeah, we'll put all the patents in the certification area for you guys.
Oh, sweet.
So now you could click on that picture.
Oh, and I can rotate
Yes.
Then just rotate it.
Somebody over there had common
it
sense.
this way. There we go. All right, so this is going to define the set of affiliated documents, associated documents we talked about earlier. It's going to calculate the ranking score for the documents. It's going to, oh, this is a normalization. This isn't actually the one I want. That's why I wanted to be able to read it. This is just talking about, it's an iterative process. So it goes out and it finds all of the documents, and then it iterates multiple times through those associations until it comes up with the final score. This is not a quick process. I mean, there's always iterations when they determine what the rankings are. That's why you get that fluctuation going on. But because this is a larger footprint that they're examining, this is going to be a more intense set of iterations. It's going to take more iterations to actually achieve a normalization of the rankings. So, so Jimmy and I were tossing back and forth, like, how are they going to actually do this? Is this going to be part of Panda Penguin? And there's the possibility that, what was your hypothesis, Jimmy? What was that they were going to do data collection with?
Well, I believe they're going to do data collection with Panda, but for the sites of the worst offenders, it's going to be tossed over to Penguin. So it's kind of a hybrid of the two.
Right. And it's either going to be something like that, or it's going to be a completely different algorithm that runs. And I believe that we're seeing the results of all of that already, because you've been seeing guys talk slowly over the summer about networks being penalized. And in particularly in the last couple of weeks, there's been a flurry of them. Let me just see what else is here. That's just lovely math, isn't it?
Trivial, I tell you. Trivial.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's just more about how they're calculating the ranking scores, and it's not in particularly.
Everything divided by everything divided by the
Pretty
click-through
much.
rate equals how much money you make. And how much they skew the algorithm in their favor.
Which is completely. Divide by 0, exactly. All right.
Sound of toilet flushing.
So that's it for this particular patent. So let's talk for a moment about what we can do. Can be done. Recommendations. How many of you guys know about Hide My IP? You guys use that or something similar to it? Give me a 1 if you use something like that already, and a 2 if that's kind of a new concept to you. We have a lot of paranoid people in this group. Excellent.
And that's why they're here.
Right? All right, so Hide My IP is going to run you through different IP addresses. I would, I believe that with Hide My IP you can go in and tell it specifically to change up your IP address. So if you're going to log out as, if you're using multiple Google accounts, every time you change Google accounts, you're going to want to change your IP address. You don't want to mix and mash those. Just a second. So, and then there was the incident earlier today when I was working with Russell, and we were like demonstrating stuff, and he was logged in as one persona, and he logged into his blog as a different persona, and it was just like this moment of, ah! Now the two personas are associated.
Absolutely.
Right? So.
Don't worry, Steve Melton, they weren't yours.
No, they were ours. So yeah, I think every time you're logged into Google, you remember that they track every single little thing and they report it all to G-Static. So as much as possible, be logged out of Google. Or what I do is I have 2 or 3 different browsers, and I use a completely different browser that I never log into Google with any user ID when I'm doing stuff that I don't want them to know about. And then you should think about your MAC address, think about your IP. It all depends on how paranoid you want to get. When in doubt, use no-follow links. Remember that no-follow links are your wild card, right? They're the way that Google says you can do stuff and stay within the terms of service. If it's a do-follow link and it's supposed to be passing, quote, PageRank, unquote, then you're attempting to manipulate PageRank that is directly against their terms of service, and those are the things that get you in hot water. So Jimmy and I were talking earlier about the possibility, you know, how can you manipulate this so that you can use 100% no-follow links and be able to rank for some stuff. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Jimmy?
Yeah, so you guys probably know, have any of you ever ranked with 100% no-follow links before?
Give me a 1 if you have, and a 2 if you haven't. All right.
Okay, so it is possible to rank with 100% no-follow. So if you have existing networks or something that you're working on, you know, and we don't know exactly the extent of this update or when it's going to come out in full force, but to salvage whatever properties that you've invested in now, I would go ahead and switch it over to no-follow before this thing comes into effect. Because it's better that than if they're going to tag a penalty or something onto it.
Yes.
We don't know what they're going to do at this point, but it could be, you know, what happens. So this is what happens typically with things that get thrown into Penguin, right? So they catch a big thing of networks that are being, you know, black hatish. They take that list and they throw it into the Penguin update. Penguin runs, if you're found having all these bad neighborhoods, then your site in turn is then hit with Penguin. Same thing with Panda type sites. If they chose to go the Panda route, if enough sites link to you that are no index, that throws off your ratio of your content to inbound link ratio. So that in turn can also give you a Panda penalty on your site. So those are the two possibilities depending on how you've been doing your linking to try and power up your money site rankings. So, you know, one thing to hedge against this, I don't know how paranoid you want to be, but, or, you know, maybe you just go with a game plan to start fresh with these new things in place, but I would bet that any kind of networks that you have now, because unless you're hiding your MAC address and rotating your IP, you know, I'm sure you've put links on some property somewhere and done it to all these other ones that are all going to one money site. It's going to have that footprint, well, you know, that fingerprint all over it. So to hedge against it, I would probably just go in there and no follow links at this point in time, until we see what this thing can actually do, or what they're going to choose to do with it. What else we got?
Well, okay, so questions are finally starting to roll in. We'll talk about Josie subdomains in a minute. 2.0, Web 2.0 properties, I think, are going to largely be excluded unless they're seriously abused, because of the sheer size of Web 2.0 properties, the fact that everybody and their dog is on them. So you've got a lot of people coming in, and there's nothing that says that you can't go promote yourself on a Web 2.0 property. You know, Kamara also brought up the idea of press releases, because press releases are typically do follow links. And I would be tempted to say there that it's not as big a deal, because first of all, unless you're like running a bunch of press releases, so long as you have a couple a month, 1 or 2 a month, I think you'd be fine. If you're running one every day, then I might raise an eyebrow. That sounds more like I'm doing it for inbound links than I am for press release, right? How much news does a company have in a single day or in a single week or month? So I think the quantity there is going to play a part. But when you think about it, press releases go through an approval process. I suspect that they might be outside of a whole lot of scrutiny, again, unless they're being abused. Well, not all press releases are no follow, are they? I thought, well, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've done a press release. Okay, excellent. Well, if they're no follows, then they're not a problem.
Yeah, they're no follow mostly, and that's why I was kind of wondering why he was suggesting it.
Okay, yeah, not a problem. So I still don't see any problem with powering up social links with DAS. Yeah, right? SkyFall siren in the background.
Sorry, guys, I thought I was muted. Somebody just killed themselves outside.
Ouch.
They heard about SkyFall.
They heard about SkyFall, exactly.
He had a huge network. I'm messing with you guys. I'm messing with you guys.
I don't see a problem with DAS. I don't see a problem with one feed. So then let's go back to GSA.
Utilize your internal linking juice to help boost up the properties that you want to rank for. Try to turn it internally.
Yeah, you talked about that earlier. Go ahead and describe that, because I didn't grok it from just that explanation earlier.
So there's some things I've done in the past. This is before I bumped into Russell and Sue, and some of the first beginnings of DAS that I started playing with. But way back when the first Penguin update came out, I realized that once your DA was strong enough, you could start ranking solely from internal links and social links. So that can give us a benefit. That can give us a benefit here in regards to what's coming up, because the social links should be coming in from all different kinds of platforms. They're going to allow it because it's a social network. They're too big and they have too much traffic to really determine any one IP. And so usually you want to be, your DA usually has to be about in the 42 to 45 range to be able to rank with, say, just tweets or say just whatever. I don't know if you guys want to see that diagram or not. Did they want to see that diagram?
Sure, let me go see the controls.
Let me pull it up first here.
Okay. The one thing I'll say while he's looking for that is I think social explosion or something similar to social explosion would be key for a lot of things that they're looking for. We've got another patent that we're going to talk about as well.
Yeah, two of the questions that we're missing is GSA, and Steve Melton's asking about 301 redirect prediction safeties into the future.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, let me pass you this.
Kumar also mentioned that his conversation with Eric Ward along the same lines, where Eric was suggesting do follows through Google Link Shortener. Kind of an interesting idea. Don't know if that will work though.
Yeah, that'll work. You could use the Google properties to do that.
Kind of an interesting idea. Come on.
So this is some stuff that I was kind of focusing on way back then before I met Russ and Sue. So I was experimenting with, once you had a certain domain authority, you could come in here and, so let's say you siloed and had everything kosher. Let's say you had something that just wasn't pushing quite well. It's just not, let's say you're in this situation where you're not going to be able to use PBNs unless you spend some money to start hiding your footprints and this and that. So let's say all you had was a social avenue to rank something. What I would do, so this would be considered I guess a satellite page, not necessarily within your, it's not going to be in your silo structured pages, but you would create, and I put LSI on here, but I would modify that now to be pure diverse. So you optimize it just as you would a normal page. You could use pure diverse, and within this page that's not part of the silo, you're going to do a contextual link of the exact match keyword back to whatever keyword you're trying to rank for internally. So if you're trying to rank for blue shoes and that's like under your shoes silo, you would link to that URL, and contextually in there it's going to be blue shoes going back to that URL. Once that's there, you're going to come in and hit it with, pretty soon you'll be able to do this with social explosion, but there's other types of things you can do out there. 5 to 10 tweets to 100 page likes would do the trick. So when I would do this page actually wouldn't rank, but the page that what you were linking to would rank. So even though this one was getting the links, this one would be ranking. So those are some options to use once you build up your domain authority to a certain level. So where you don't think you necessarily have to use just anchors per se. Does that make sense?
Is that a do follow link or a no follow link?
It's a do follow because this is on site.
Oh, it's all on site. Yeah, that makes sense.
On site, they're not going to know. I mean, it's not really going to care. Everybody has on site links. It doesn't look like it's manipulating PageRank on site.
Right. That makes total sense.
So you can use some of those types of methods to help beef up you know, pages that you might have stuck or sitting out in no man's land. And this will work very well even if it's a long tail keyword. To just go ahead and do this, it'll rank most long tails pretty easily.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. You can increase your on-site content too by adding another couple of pages, and those inbound links within that silo will also help to strengthen that. And then if you run a few of those social signals to those new pages, that will also bounce it up, which is a trick that I've been using for a dang long time to get a page to move that's stuck. Yeah, so Kumar's saying be careful with panda factors, but you avoid the panda factors because they're completely unique keywords.
Yeah, the panda factors are, if you're using, that's why I wanted to modify it to be pure diverse. So, you know, if you were trying to push pure or blue shoes, I might just do like turquoise sandals or something like that. Or,
yeah,
you know, aqua green sandals. You know, aqua sandals, something like that. It doesn't contain the blue shoes keyword, but it's related enough to where it's going to give it a boost. And that way it's not the same content over and over again.
Russell's Periwinkle's pumps. All right, so let me grab this back again for a second.
Does anybody have any other question?
Unmuted.
Periwinkle is not my color. That's my first question.
Sorry about that. I needed blue. A blue by any other name. All right, so one of the things that I see that typically happens with PBNs is that guys throw them up, they're static, they sit there, they don't have any traffic because they don't have any real worthwhile content. They don't have any new content going on. And so they're just, like, think about this for a second. Let's say that you've got a site that's got a domain authority of 27, and it's sitting there like a bump on a log. It's got no new content, and it's got no traffic. Why the heck should it keep that domain authority of 27? I think these are the kinds of questions that Google is starting to ask. So if it's got no traffic, that's part of that whole traffic thing that we were talking about earlier. If it has no traffic, I am positive you're going to start to see, I mean, I've already been seeing that to one degree or another. I've been watching PBNs that my clients have disintegrate when they've got no activity, which is why we came up with the PBN Reloaded concept using vCrack and a social explosion. But I would just, within the context of what we teach, I would just say, like, if you've got sites in your WR2 that don't get any traffic, then I would install something like vCrack, where you've got new content coming, and install something like Social Explosion, so that you've got new inbound links, you've got traffic, and you've got a signal that says, you know, a pulse that says that the site is alive. Otherwise, I think you're going to see, at the best, you're going to see those links decrease in value, and at worst, you're going to see them start to be penalized. So let's talk about GSA for a second.
GSA is going to be an interesting kind of beast. Until we see how this thing fully rolls out, I believe we're going to take it off of Network Empire altogether. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're not going to sell it anymore, but what I do want to talk about is guys who have, so these are certified advisors, so we talked about creating battery sites. So let's talk about that first. Let's say you put a battery site on your money site. How can you protect yourself?
Well, one thing is you could still go to completely no follow. So if you're trying to do the battery method, I highly recommend, because I've seen some people still just do index follow for that subdomain they put up. You want to make sure that that's no index follow, because Google's not going to penalize a page that you're saying to not index. So you can get away with a lot more aggressive stuff. And specifically, we use those battery methods just to like inflate the domain authority. So that's something you want to have on your radar. The other thing is, you know, now we have this whole traffic to IP to originator. You know, even if you have this out on a VPS, you only have so many proxies. It's going to be interesting to see how that rolls out. But I mean, you can still build your DA if you just swap it over to 100% no-follow. So when you go into your content machine or whatever, you can switch that to do only no-follow links. Like you can set that to 100% no-follow. So you would set it to 100% no-follow, and you should be able to continue on just as you did.
All right, and for those, I mean, you can go back and no-index those subdomains now, even if you had them indexed before. That's not going to hurt anything. And worst case scenario, if everything goes completely south and they find that subdomain and decide to penalize it, you can simply drop the subdomain. Just remove the subdomain out of your DNS, and that penalty will go away.
Yeah, you can just delete it. And you can also, if you want to go one step further in your HT access, just put up a 410 into your HT access. They'll just tell Google it's permanently gone.
All right, so somebody had a question about 301 redirects. I don't think 301 redirects are going to be touched, personally.
Yeah, I don't either.
The
301 redirects, I mean, right now, it's like if you 301 a penalized site, once it runs through and calculates, let's say you got a penguin penalty and you 301 it over to another domain, typically it'll stay there for a week or two. Like the rankings will jump back if it's a pure penguin penalty, and then it'll drop after maybe a week or two once Google's actually reassessed the links, even though it's pointing to a new domain. So like anytime you, so the penalty's with that domain, but if you 301 it, it has to reassess those links that are being 301 from the new domain. So that's why you are able to slip out of it with 301s for a time. And vice versa, if it's a panda, typically if you 301 and nothing respawns, you're dealing with a panda type penalty. So those are kind of two tests that you can do to determine, you know, what you're working with on the site. But you know, that goes with like shorteners. You know, shorteners are nothing more than 301s. I'm sure everybody understands that. Same kind of situation. So really what's going to determine on this patent of how bad things get with 301s or URL shorteners is really going to depend on what they decide to do with these types of networks. So let's say you use GSA, did 100% follow, and hammered the crap out of a bit.ly or something, per se. Well, now they're going in and they can determine based on all these links that you did, because you know you're just rotating through your proxies. It can determine that this IP is associated with all these sites that were just out on the web. So what are they going to do with it at that point? Are they just going to discount it, where they talk about normalizing your ranking score? Or are they actually going to take action and do a penalty on those? We don't know. But it's something just to be aware of.
Yeah, they do look back to 3 levels now, sire.
Yeah, so I personally would just be careful with doing GSA full on. I mean, I'm still going to be experimenting, and once we have a solution for some of this, if we can determine that GSA is still viable, then we'll give an update, and of course certified advisors would be privy to that new direction with using GSA to really power up sites. So. But I'll have to do testing once this thing rolls out full bore, so. Because I don't want you guys to start replicating a method and then just start getting your stuff penalized left and right.
Right. So the one thing that I firmly believe is that all of Google properties will still be gold.
Probably,
We have tried,
probably more so than they are now, huh?
well, at least to the same degree.
Yeah.
We have tried our best to get a YouTube video analyzed by throwing massive quantities of GSM at it, and have been unable to do so.
Oh, hey Sue?
Yeah.
I don't know. Jimmy, I think we did get one penalized, didn't we?
Oh, did we?
It just depends on how you do your percentages.
Okay. Yeah, we did get one
It always
penalized.
it comes down percentage and on-page factors, so people can still go over the threshold of how many anchors they can actually get before it'll go down.
Okay. Well, all right. Then that brings us to our next patent.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
Exactly.
percentages. All right. So let's move over
You
here to
want
this
me to
patent.
do a... Well, you can talk about it first, if you want. Unless you want me to just do it.
Oh, go for it. I've been talking a lot on this webby. I'll let you talk.
It was a late night
Okay.
for Sue.
So the second one is an update to Panda specifically. So how many of you have watched the Traffic Hospital course? Give me a 1. If you guys took that course or if you watched it. Let's see how many of you are aware of what I teach in there.
This is the test that you guys were all afraid of becoming eventually.
Give me a 2 if you haven't taken it or heard it or watched it. Okay. Okay, so what you're looking at, so let's see, maybe I should just do a mind map here. We'll do a mind map live, just for fun.
Now this is the one that's talking about the searches versus the traffic. Just
Correct.
to make sure that we're on the same. Okay, good.
This is the tiering,
Guys,
right?
Yeah. You got to know we covered like about 20 patents recently.
Okay, so let's say that you have, let's say this is your money site. Okay, and so aside from all the other stuff that we talked about today, this is what's important about this new one. So what Panda's generally been about, and I know there's some in here that haven't taken the Traffic Hospital, so this is going to be a little bit of a refresh for you that did. But let's say this is a, this is a backlink, right? All these are backlinks that either you created or somebody else created or you outsourced or whatever, you bought. Okay. Okay. So, let me see, I want something else here. Arrow connectors. I don't even want that, I want something else. Yeah, screw it. Alright, I'll just rotate this crap around.
All right,
Okay.
so while he's putting the image together, do you want me to talk for a second, or are you good?
No, I'm good. So basically what's going on is Panda before was basically what they were mostly looking at was, it goes out and it does deal with links in the sense that it's trying to count your quantity.
Muted.
So it's the amount of links per content that you have going in and then determining the relationship or the relevancy between the two through the backlink, if that makes sense. So let's just give a few examples here of some things that can trigger a Panda. Okay, so let's say that on this orange one, we decided to link to the same page somewhere else on the site, right? So let's just say it's like a sub-page of this money site. So this right here, this is okay within reason. So you have 2 backlinks to 1 piece of content that's coming out, right? So this can be okay within reason, but if you did this on every single backlink, you're going to penalize yourself with a Panda penalty at some point because you have 2 outbound links to 1 piece of content. Like, to stay within that boundary, you want to have 1 link to 1 piece of content if at all possible. So that was prior to this patent, right? So this patent now is not only looking at that, but in addition, it's looking at how many backlinks you have to the query. So let's say, for example, do we have anybody that does like local clients in here in the group today? Bradley. What are some of the anchors that you would use if you were, what's one of your niches that you're in? You don't have to say the keyword, just give me a niche. Okay, so tree service, let's say he wants to rank for New York, right? Because it's a local client, so like they don't want to rank all over the US for this specific thing, okay? So what are some of the anchors that you would use for this? You can throw out like 2 or 3. For your backlink.
Tree trimming.
Okay. Okay, he said tree removal. Whoops. In New York. Okay. Hopefully that's not so unlegible. There we go. New York City tree pruning. Okay. And you probably want, let's just put in for fun, let's just say it's tree service New York.com or whatever. Let's say that's the money site, something like that. Okay. So now what they're taking into consideration is how, so this is your backlink going to the site. How many times does this actually get searched for in Google? So this is what you got to be careful with now when you start rolling out your backlinks, especially before this starts getting traffic or search queries in the search engine. So let's say, for instance, that let's say you did New York City tree pruning, and let's say it only gets like 3 searches a month for this specific keyword in Google, and you go over that normalized factor that they're going to calculate. We don't know what that is, but for simplicity, we'll just say, let's say we had 5 backlinks with that. You just crossed over the Panda threshold there. Okay, so that's going to trigger this and throw it into a Panda penalty. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Kumar.
Let's even take this another step further. Let's say that there's only 50 people that search for tree pruning in New York City a month, and within a month you get 150 inbound links with tree pruning as the anchor text, or some form of tree pruning as the anchor text. And this just like, it's completely out of proportion with the number of people doing the search. Like, think of it from a natural perspective. In order for somebody to create naturally an inbound link, they're going to do a search, they're going to find your site, they're going to say, hey, wow, this is some really quality content. I'm going to link to that site for whatever reason, right? It's engaging, blah, blah, blah. Think about how many people actually hit your site and how many people out of that let's say 1,000 people at your site. Out of that 1,000 people, how many people are actually going to build a real backlink? Right, so that gives you an idea of the number of searches to the number of links that you can build. So I'm looking at traffic on your site as well as searches created within the month for that particular keyword. That's what these, if you take these two patents together, where the one patent's talking about traffic and the other patent's talking about searches, that's what you end up with.
So what do you guys see this as doing to tiered link building?
Unmuted.
Yeah, this is huge, guys.
This is really bad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because you got to consider, think of the SEO industry as a whole out there. Like, what do they typically do? Like, some people will say, for instance, let's just hit it with URL-based links. Okay, and then what are they doing behind the scenes at that point? Well, now they start blasting these properties with the specific keyword that they're trying to push for, right? So let's say they were trying to rank for this one specifically. And let's say all these, all the ones in this column were just now your URL-based. Which I also think you can actually get in trouble with the URL-based if there's no searches going for your site a month. I think it's going to be more tolerance, but I think you better be careful with how many URL links you actually use if that site's not getting any traffic. So let's just say they did variations.
Because this emergency.
Let's say
took 4 days.
Yeah, let's see how bad that this would be. So we're just blasting this out. Let's say it's GSA or whatever they chose for their link building tool. You know, they do tree pruning, New York City tree pruning in New York City, blah, 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 blah. Well, chances are one of those is going to be over the threshold, so that's going to knock that property out. So now think of this in terms of Panda. Remember, the original Panda is still going. They're just adding in the query-based part as well. So what happens if this gets de-indexed, but you still have the link coming in from that de-indexed page? Your original Panda is going to trigger because your content to link ratio is off at that point. Does that make sense?
It's over threshold.
It's over the threshold. Give me a 1 if that makes sense to you, and how devastating this is going to be for tiered link building. Okay,
that's the major takeaway, guys, on there. Not to mention some of the things that I've been seeing on the PinVid side, which we'll get into later, that how much when I'm driving traffic and choosing specific things, following Jimmy and Sue's method, that it just has a profound effect. Traffic versus no traffic. I mean, that's what the whole PBN reloaded model that Sue and Jimmy were trying to create to support the build model. Now we know even more why it's been working so well.
Well, so for Bradley, he's asking, so what if we only use exact match anchor on tier 3 and beyond? Well, think about it. Even if you put a tier 3 out here and you do the same method, that same Panda thing is going to be a chain reaction all the way down.
Yeah.
So these would get de-indexed, these would get de-indexed, and then eventually this. So it's specifically designed, I think, to start handling the tiered link building approach.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing that you can do, this is what I've already started doing this. So let's say you want to rank for Tree Service New York. I would only be using, to start out with my anchors, I'd be using like tree service, or, you know, tree pruning services, something that's more of a market level keyword, and let the optimization on page handle your specific location. Because that way, you know, if it's a national term, you know it's getting searches, you know, but that way you're not dancing around the fire with trying to put the specific descriptor in there, such as the city, with the search combination.
Right.
Does that make sense? So when you go through, it's better to start hitting it with market levels if you're going to start tiering. You do not want to use, you know, descriptors or things of that sort unless it can handle the traffic. And even that even goes with URL links. I believe.
It's so funny, Jimmy and Sue, we were kind of talking about this. If you look between the patent, it's almost like we're back in, the big authority sites get more authority. Like it's all back to big branding. I mean, these patents definitely are designed to favor authority and more. It's almost like when we designed Kraken in the early years, it was all vertical. So in a weird way, the whole thing's flipped back on its head, right, Sue, you were saying? It's
well,
kind of like, in some ways.
It's only when you come down to link building because you want to be careful. So you're going to have such a small threshold with the long tail keywords because there's such a small amount of search, there's a finite amount of searches done on a monthly basis for those terms.
Right,
and you can't push that threshold. So.
Right, so it's different, and I also find it interesting that, the whole exact match conundrum with all that kind of stuff going away, you watch them start to phase out, at least theoretically, or phasing out the exact match. And it's all, in other words, I guess what I'm saying is it seems like the long tail concept, when you combine it with traffic, with that new patent, there has to be a traffic relationship for ranking, that's just a whole other beast, right?
Yeah.
And if you combine these two patents together, that is why we called it the SkyFall.
It's
not necessarily that SEOs can be dead. It's just a matter of look at the SEO industry as a whole right now and what they're either teaching or what they're doing. There's not going to be many SEOs left standing after these two roll out.
No.
Correct. So, given your current drawing, how would you recover this site that will get the SkyFall slap?
Well, I'd probably go in and follow the entire first tier and start over knowing what you know now.
So we've got two things coming down the pipe.
You can also, there is another thing you can do. You can go and disavow that link.
Yeah.
So you don't have to log in and change nofollow, just go and throw it in the disavow tool.
I would be inclined to disavow anything that's too long-tailed and build out other links that are more general. And build them out as general no-follows. Sell and go join the military. I don't think it's quite that bad. So we've got two things that are going to be coming out that are going to help you, at least in the moving forward part. And I think it'll also give you an idea of what you can do for some of your historical sites if they start to run into hot water. We're going to create a tool that you'll be able to do a drill, a TLKT-like drill. You'll be able to import a list of keywords, and it will give you an upper threshold of the number of inbound links that you should have for that particular keyword to your site. So that would be to any tier on the site. To any one site, you could have that number of inbound links and you'd be under the threshold. Going to start working on that the first part of next week and have it out to you guys as quickly as possible. And the other way that we can manipulate what Google's looking at is with search traffic.
Careful, we're going to talk about that here.
Okay, not talking about that yet.
That's one of my biggest techniques, guys. I've been using it for months. And it makes it 10 times more powerful now.
Yeah, we will have some stuff coming out to help you with that.
I mean, we just burst out laughing. It was so hilarious how powerful that is. Okay, I have a question for you, Sue and Jimmy.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do just make sure, because I know that other people have these questions. It was really helpful, Sue, when you did it with me. I'm going to walk through the things that we've been teaching for the last 5 years and all the services and epimemes that Russell has marketed and put out there. And we're going to walk through them, and you're going to tell me which one still holds true and which ones people need to put a pause on, if any. Okay? Because you really helped me with that. PinVid, automatic video, YouTube engagement rank traffic. Good, hot or not still?
Hot.
Yeah, totally
Make sure
hot.
links are no follow.
Yeah, the main thing, guys, no follow links. Don't worry, Steve and others I'm working with, we got that covered. 5 iframe punch and curation assassination with Jimmy Kelley. Hot or not, post SkyFall?
Hot.
Super hot. Okay. Advanced one feed to rule them all with Jimmy Kelley. Jimmy, hot or not?
Jimmy's busy removing links.
Oh, I said hot.
You said hot? Oh, we didn't hear it. He was
Sorry,
like, hot.
Delay on the mute.
Okay, no worries, Jimmy. Thanks for being up so late and working so hard. We can give you a nap. Sue might be able to give you a nap.
Maybe.
Domain authority stacking and sculpting. Jimmy Kelley, hot or not, post Skyfall?
I would say hot if you're using 2.0s.
Okay,
If you
2.0.
start incorporating PBNs and stuff in there, you're going to have to start using the track, covering your tracks.
Oh, we'll get to those. PBBNs, personal brand broadcasting methodology in the socially activated semantic web. Sue, semantic web, hot, Kelly, Kevin and Sue, hot or not?
Oh, hot. Very hot. Red hot.
Smoking, sizzling hot. In fact, Sue, you should answer more of that because you didn't even get into the patents that we discovered.
No, so there were 2 other patents of note that are starting to lean even heavier on semantic technologies. It's showing that Google's colors that they're really incorporating more and more of semantic stuff as we move along. That'll be a different update. I'm not going to cover too much of that today.
No worries, no worries. Having all of your outsourcers create multiple websites for you under one IP address. Jimmy, hot or not?
Say that again?
Having your outsourcers or in-house team build websites all off the same IP in your office when you're building a network of multiple sites that you want to keep, hot or not?
That would be not.
Okay, good.
I would say that would depend.
Okay.
Are they building PBNs?
Okay, I'm going to get there. Just general website. Okay,
Or are they
they're all
building
done. Okay, let's do it. Let's do that. Having your in-house staff, team, and outsourcers all working off the same or similar IP addresses for your WR1 web ring.
That's fine.
Okay. For your WR2 web ring in the same office.
That's fine.
Okay. For your PBNs, hot or not?
We don't teach PBNs.
Exactly.
If we did, that would be not.
Have we ever taught PBNs?
No.
Okay. Personal brand broadcasting, one web ring, semantically web integrated, socially activated, domain authority stacking, perpetual downstream traffic system. Say that with one breath. Hot or not?
Hot.
Exactly. It's always been hot, always will. Well, not always. I can't say that. Okay, it's been hot. And
one feeds are still good as well.
One feeds are still good as well. And if there's any changes that come up to that, again, the big one here is making sure that we understand the node. What Jimmy has really slapped me around about, like a lot, has been, has been the no follows. He took a look at one of my pin bids that I built. He cut me some slack because I built 3 years ago. Let's just put it this way. I've been trying to get one of my PBN experiments. Sorry, I've never built a PBN. That's the other team. That's the other team members. One of my pin bid. It's got 300,000 pages indexed. I mean, there's a lot of sites we have like that. No matter what I can do, what I've tried to do, I can't get it penalized, or it's just hand over fist driving traffic. And again, the problem with it is, I've got I have follow links to that entire thing. I get 3 emails a week of people screaming at me. I've destroyed other people's sites or harmed other people's sites more than I have my own. Not sure the reason why. Probably I could get a lot of rankings, but I need to go back and do a mass mod rewrite and do follows and so on and so forth. So the big takeaway for this is like the no follows, and the big takeaway for this is a little bit of extra paranoia, maybe even a lot. I don't like to create fear. In fact, calling this SkyFall, I was like gritting my teeth for a second. But when Jimmy and Sue got into it with me, and they said, no, you don't understand. 9 hours later, it's staying up all night, a couple nights in a row. It's definitely, let me just put it this way. I now cloak my IP addresses. Everything that I'm doing for this. Because, even if it's not fully implemented yet, it's just obvious. The implications are there. Sue, PBN, that is building a private blog network with multiple sites that don't really have any traffic, that are not thematically related, or even if they are thematically related, for the purposes of simply ranking with no traffic. Hot or not?
Not.
Okay. How is there any? Can you give us any hope or glimmer of hope? Does size matter?
Well, yeah. So as I said before, there's like that 80-20 rule. If I were Google, I'm looking for the 20% of the people out there that are making 80% of the damage. So a lot of guys that have PBNs, they've got small blog networks, and they've got one or too many sites that they're linking to, and they don't have a really big footprint simply because their PBNs are small. And there's a good possibility that a lot of those won't get caught up in the mayhem. But Google's really looking to nail it, the large blog networks. So,
Jimmy, I've got it, Sue. Thank you. Jimmy Kelley, traffichospital.com. The material that you've taught in there over the last 6 months or 5 months, evergreen, hot or not?
absolutely evergreen. Not sure where he's at, but
Yeah, it's okay.
there isn't anything in there that isn't still completely
Gotcha. Fantastic. You guys, and one thing I did want to say is that in his LSI inception model that he showed us today, I wanted to make sure that you guys noticed that the major difference there is the pure diverse version instead of general LSIs. Did you guys catch that? Give me a 1 if you caught that on his. Pure diverse is a term that Sue and I made up in 2006. Jimmy's been using it in his filter. I think the filter that was created that he designed, that Sue and him designed, was called, what is that? The domain finder, Sue? Yeah, domain finder. So it's interesting because it's not called pure diverse, but I like it as much as a pure diverse filter. If you go into the last keyword tool, it's there. So if you want to follow his model, the pure diverse filter is going to give you, the domain finder filter is going to be pure diverse. GSA.
There is also a pure diverse option within Teak.
Gotcha. I think the big one that is a thing that that people are asking about, Sue, that is probably one of the biggest impacts would be GSAsoftwarecourse.com, which, by the way, everyone, Sue has informed me that I need to go ahead and remove that from the market. It doesn't mean that you can't use GSA. It just means that we are running our own tests. Sue, actually, can you speak to that so I don't miss stuff?
Yeah, it's well, we talked about it extensively already. The changes that Jimmy recommended that you make to your GSA campaigns at this point.
Right. I just want to make sure everybody understands. Is there anybody confused about what was said? I want to make sure that you know that we are removing our position. We're removing it from the market, but it's too easy for people to blow themselves up now. It just made it 10 times easier for people to hurt themselves. Right? Yeah. So we're going to remove that. Doesn't mean you can't use it. Just follow those instructions. If you have questions, you're helping us by giving us feedback of what's not clear. Kevin McCarthy, you're always really good at that. Kevin says, so basically we can still GSA an FU sub and then use the other subs with pin bids, then no follow pin bids to money site. Oh, that was a very specific question.
You want to no follow your GSA links too.
Yeah.
So in GSA you go in and you switch it so there's 100% no follow, and then you can send those to the subdomains and power up your pin bids that way. And exactly right, follow your pin bids to your money site.
Yeah, and Kevin McCarthy, can you stay tight, because anybody in this room who's using GSA, Jimmy is running some major experiments on no follows, and I don't know if he's still here. I can't speak to it at all, but I'm really interested to see what part of the reason we're moving GSA software course from the market is we got a whole bunch of evil stuff we're going to try and play with and confirm. Yeah. So we'll keep you really informed with that. That to me is the biggest hedge that we as an organization, Network Empire Theme Zoom, have to make. Now what's interesting is the GSA software training course was something that we were not 100% sure that we even wanted to put in the market. We're going to teach it only to advanced students, put it out there. It's been a lot of help. But bottom line, I would change immediately to no follow backlinking your GSA. That's a major change in both the training and our perspective. And so that's probably one of the biggest things in our organization.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, that is the only thing.
So I'm just curious, guys. Give me a 1 if you found out something new in this Webby today, and a 2 if it was like, oh yeah, I thought all this was coming down the pike. It's not a real big surprise to me.
Okay, good. Lots of 1s. And if speaking to Sue's question, if you guys would help, believe it or not, the marketing department by himself, me by myself did not come up with this name. It was also a collaboration with the technical team. I need to know, I'm asking help because you guys are my friends. Is this code name too harsh for what this is, or do you think I'm okay? Give me a 1 if it's okay, and 2 if you think the name is too harsh, too alarmist. Wow.
Interesting. Okay.
They all thought it was fine, mostly. Yeah. No, go ahead. I haven't heard from all of you. Be honest. I will not mention.
Okay, take the gloves off.
Please. If you guys can't take your gloves off, then there's no way for me to talk to anyone. Okay. I got you, Brendan. Anyone else? Okay, good. All right. I really appreciate that.
Cool.
Thank you guys all for giving me your opinion. I do want to know how it impacts you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So that's it for now. We'll probably come back with a semantic update in the not too distant future, and we'll be. Do you guys have any feedback? Anything that you want to tell us about what you've heard here, what you've learned, how you feel about it?
We could
Some kind of feedback at all.
could we unmute some people, Sue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to them like our
Step
friends.
forward and
Yeah.
talk a bit.
No, Bradley, I appreciate that. Okay. Who's got something to talk about? Yeah, a question. Go live with questions if we want. You have an opportunity to talk to one of the crack teams in the world here, Sue and Jimmy and Matt and Kevin.
And also kind of what I'm looking for when I ask that question is we're going to take this to the rest of the membership.
Yeah.
And so
That's why we asked you those questions.
yeah, I'm interested in what your thoughts are.
How do I, Steve, can I talk to you, voice Steve Melton? If we turn you on, I got to figure out how to do that.
So
yeah.
you open up the attendees and you click on the microphone.
Genius. I don't have a microphone.
The little green mic with the red stripe across it?
All I have,
Beside his
I'm in
name?
the questions. I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah, you
I've
need the
just
attendees.
unmuted him.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Russell. Sue, everybody.
Hey,
Hey,
Steve.
Steve.
Hey, guys. I'm going to go through a few other people, too, if you guys would mind staying on the call. Do you feel like this is something, do you have any suggestions for how we might be able to present this to the masses? Or first of all, what's your takeaway, and what do you think we can do?
Well, I think there's some underlying things there that we all know are taking place. We just don't know how they're doing it. And the insight that you showed today by looking at the patents
Right.
and everything else, it kind of puts it all together. And if you're to see the amount they actually are tracking without really realizing it,
Yeah.
is where you come up with the idea. It should in some ways make you a little bit angry once it's taking place.
Right.
Not only at the Google level, but at the NSA level, if you will, too.
Yeah.
Not to say that
Right.
that way, but there's a lot of stuff going on that you suspect, but when y'all put it in black and white and you really see it in action, it just really takes on a life of its own.
And so what the impact for you overall, the biggest impact for you, what do you think? Was it the patents or was it the diagrams showing you? What's going
I'm a
on?
visual guy, so I love the diagrams. So
Okay.
the patents are really there, and
Okay.
putting the patent information through the visual format is awesome.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you so much, Steve.
Absolutely.
Hey, Bradley, can I put you on for a second so I can get your unique perspective? What I like about you is you're local, and so there's a lot of strategies that you can really bend to your will here. Let's get Bradley. Hey, Kevin, can we put Bradley on?
Yep. Hi, Bradley.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
can.
Good. How you guys?
Good. Hey, thanks for being honest about your feeling about the way we code named it. That's awesome. How would you have presented it? I'm just curious.
Well, I think it's a bit over dramatic because SEO continues to get more complicated all the time, and
Sure.
it's to be expected. But what it did do was it certainly got my ass to the webinar. So,
Okay. True. But I hear you. I hear you. It was a big decision to go if we're going to talk about the sky falling, you have to really be sure. We haven't ever seen an impact like this that dealt with 3 layers at the same time. So we really felt like some kind of sounding the alarm was useful. How do you think that? Go ahead, Bradley.
I do have a question concerning basically building PBNs, which I guess I'm kind of building PBNs more like the PBBNs, and if you're creating a site, building it out like a PBN, but you're creating a 1-to-1 ratio with a Google persona and a full-on social persona for that with all the social accounts, everything interconnected, is that still going to be under as much scrutiny as just a traditional PBN?
Well, even so, Sue said that if you're doing WR1s and 2s and things are granted, I'm still going to be creating unique. I'm still going to be doing all my work on unique IP addresses for those persona levels down.
Right. Well, my outsourcers do that anyways because.
Oh, well, there you go. So you're already on it. Sue, would you argue that or clarify that?
I'd still have the links be no follows, just because I still think that there's going to be too many places where they can connect all those sites together.
So essentially, no follow all external links from now on, from inbound linking from PBNs is what you're saying.
That's the safest thing to do.
Gotcha.
If you feel really secure about the fact that you're covering your footprint by covering your IP addresses and that your outsourcers are covering their IP addresses and nobody's slipped up, and the personas are all unique and all that stuff and everything's in order, then that's fine. But you can.
Too many opportunities for mistakes there, though.
Exactly.
Actually, there's more opportunities than we ever thought there were by an order of magnitude. Even if they haven't fully implemented those layers, those layers are coming. So there's a combination here of maybe wanting to create new best practices. And Sue's really big on best practices when it comes to the large-scale stuff that we're doing. I mean, throughout the years, everybody remembers when we started talking about website-side architecture, and nobody got it for 5 years. This is one of those, except it's way more impactful. All right, so this is what we have to watch. And so I think it's going to be, I mean, if you have any questions also, you should talk to us. I mean, I know it's a weird idea that, you came in through OMG, didn't you?
Who, me?
Yeah, that's how you met us? Or?
Yes, okay. That is.
Yeah, so I know that you have PBNs and the rest, and we're still contemplating how to basically communicate that, but there's really no way around that, for us. I mean, we have to call it like we see it. Sue's never been able to do anything other than call it like she sees it.
Well, and better safe than sorry, and I appreciate that. So. Yeah,
I just don't think I don't think that we can condone people, building PBNs without traffic and frequency of publish and not having that kind of safeguard on there. And I guess also if you've got stuff out there already, I mean, when you were first telling us about this and Jimmy was talking to us, he was kind of like, there's no way to really repair a PBN if you've gone too much. Today I heard some different things, which there might be a few things that you can do on that tier structure.
Yeah.
And that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But that's not what we said immediately.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still, if you don't change it, you're going to be in hot water.
Yeah, if you guys, I mean, here's the bottom line. Okay, I know that we sounded an alarm with SkyFall. We could have called it Gently Cuddly Teddy Bears and your PBNs will be fine.com. But the thing is that that's not how it works. We want everybody to actually get off of that habit building pattern. We want to create new habits right away. Little electroshock therapy there. It's great. Thank you so much, Bradley. Hey, Kevin McCarthy, can we get you on to speak? I know you don't like to. Okay, cool.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Hey, Kevin McCarthy, we can all hear you.
Yep.
How is everybody?
Good. Do you want? I don't know if you wanted to keep that statement you just said privately, or if you wanted to do it out loud, talk about it out loud while we're here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I had the site which originally was doing about 1.5K visits per day.
Sure.
Now, there's been no manual penalties. I haven't no links have gone to the site at all, so I haven't done any. It's been all natural linking, so there's been no PBNs, no GSA, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The only links that have been going to the site were no follow links, just to a couple of pinvid sites.
Okay.
And it, about 5 days ago, it just dropped, just completely lost all of its keyword rankings. I lost about 50 keywords that were on page 1 of Google.
Okay.
Do you have any messages in your web message tools?
Absolutely. I've checked the messages and there's nothing there at all. So kind of like what you guys are talking about, I get, but that's not what's happened to this particular money site.
Well, we'll see. Can we have it and analyze it for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You still have webmaster tools shared with me?
Should be. I haven't changed it yet.
Yeah, actually, Kevin, I would love to look at this. So would Sue and Jimmy, I know.
Yeah, that'd be really cool just to help out because I just can't for the life of me work out what's happening.
Yeah, did you look at your backlink profile since then? You probably got hammered with negative SEO.
Well, the backlink profile, it's all been natural links. I've not. There's not that many links going to it at all.
Yeah, so you have not been negative SEO'd, right?
No.
Okay, we'll look at it then. That's interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to dig a little bit. I don't have.
But thanks, Kevin. So that may not be your particular case. We may be speaking to something completely unrelated. So that's actually.
Oh, absolutely. It just seems strange that it's all kind of happened at the same time as this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you there.
Yeah, it's serendipity, for sure.
Yeah, let's hook up tomorrow. I got the Tech2 Foundation Webby at 11 o'clock, so let's hook up after that.
It's sort of low because I've just spent a fortune revamping the site.
I understand. Let us take a look at it, okay? I'm very curious. Okay, before you guys go, if anybody could raise their hands, we're looking at releasing this to the general public. Can you give me a 1 if you feel that the general overview that we provided today is safe enough for the general public without creating a mass hysteria, or 2 if you think it's better left quietly behind the doors of our members area, and 3 if you think we shouldn't even talk about it again. Not that we won't, but I just want to get some impact from you guys. You're my most trusted advisors. Okay, Kumar is saying behind closed doors. Bradley's saying everybody wants it behind closed doors. Interesting. Okay. They're all like, shut up. All right. Too big of a deal. Okay, you guys. Well, Kevin McCarthy's, we paid money. Well, Kevin, I know you did. And, Kevin, we actually really do respect that. We were just trying to find this place, and as many of you guys know, and I'm not speaking about myself personally, Bradley, take your gloves off, brother. I love it. He's like, you'll confuse people that don't have good foundation. We get that. Okay, so that's really helpful to help me guide. I can't undo the name. About 24 hours after I named it this, I was like questioning myself for a second. And when Sue and Jimmy were not, I was like, wow, that's a first. Usually it's the other way around. Usually the tech team is saying, okay, the marketer is getting too hypey, put him back in his cage. This one, it was the obvious. It was the opposite. I was like, are you guys sure you want to roll out with this? So as our most trusted advisors, there's several things that you're going to be privy to over the next few months regarding this that absolutely nobody else will be, ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's certain kinds of tools, specifically having to do with traffic and referrals, and oh my goodness, so cool, that we're going to be contacting some of you individually, but we will keep all of this. We weren't talking about giving everybody the detail, but Bradley has pointed out you got to have too much of a foundation before you can even understand, before you know what's getting lost. Sue, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can work with that.
We'll figure something out. We have to. We might. You guys might see something where we drive someone to the area. We just really have to determine what level of. Bradley's point is best taken. Steve Melton says, "Look how many marketers are pushing PBNs now." See, that's our problem, Steve. Is we find ourselves in one of the challenging positions. Oh, by the way, guys, I didn't even bother to do our zero tolerance disclaimer on this because you're all certified advisors. Just keep this obviously in your own. This audio.
Yeah, we will put up a replay inside the certified advisors area because we've only got about half you guys here today, and I want to make sure that everybody gets this information. But but I'm sure you guys want to share it.
And Kumar has asked us to put the patents up in the area, and we'll do that as well.
We'll put all of that along with the diagram and everything.
Yeah, and we are here to protect your interests. So your feedback has been very, very helpful, and I want to thank you very much for that. And again, as certified advisors, take your gloves off. If there's any part of this stuff that you don't understand and you'd like us to clarify, it really does help me because I'm out of my depth in terms of being able to communicate with the rest of the market things that they don't understand. Okay. All right, you guys. Sue, I'll let you wrap it up. I mean, I'm good.
All right. Thanks, guys. We appreciate your time today and all of your feedback. We really appreciate it. You guys are our most trusted inner circle, and we will be getting with you again shortly.
Let me just grab Joseph's real quick since he hasn't talked much.
Yeah.
It's kind of unusual. What's the matter, Joseph? I'm just teasing you, man. It's interesting you didn't
figure into any of the patents that I've read.
No, we didn't see age of sight, Joseph. I think one of the things that happened, Joseph, with age of sight is when you're looking at off-page and on-page ranking factors, one of the things that has ended up happening is just by the nature of a site being old, it just builds domain authority. It's something that Jimmy talks about. I don't think he's here. But just as it begins to age, I think a lot of the idea that age of a domain was an actual literal ranking factor that's pulled from the who is, it might be. It might be a tiebreaker or something. But I think just by the sheer size of them rolling out as they gather page strength and time, as your site gets old, you start to gain authority because you have more content over time. I could be wrong on that, but it seems like that.
There is one other one which talks about freshness. It's talking about the freshness of the content, and how certain markets are in particularly interested in fresh content. So that's going to start to factor into more of the SERPs that you're going to see, but not the age of the site.
There's some stuff I'd like to talk to you guys about after Kevin, Paulie, and Sue Bell get together on it. Kevin's doing some amazing stuff with marking up curated content and RSS content. All of this stuff, I imagine, will play into this patent that you just spoke about. We'll see if it's viable. But I'm very, very excited. Interestingly, you guys, I'm more excited than I am concerned because we've stayed on this evergreen path, and we really do have an understanding of where things inevitably are going. Sue was talking about some of this concept over a couple of years ago. This is why I hang out with these guys, because they're badasses. I definitely would never come up with these things on my own. So really excited about some of the things we have. And thank you so much. We will see you. We'll release that information inside the area. And I might ask a few of you individually an opinion before I release to the general public, and just the basics and drive them new members. Probably, not to offend you guys, probably will use this a little bit to drive new certified advisors into 2015, but not going to give anything away to the general public. We'll go through it, and we'll talk to you all individually. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sue Bell, Jimmy Kelley, Matt DeCruz. Thank you so much tuning in from South Africa. And, of course, Kevin Pauly, master of the ceremonies, and semantic biz kid, digital theft expert, among many, many other things. Also, Kevin has been incredibly busy setting up a new hosting company for the PinVid course, so it's plug and play. I had a PinVid site installed and prepared in under 30 minutes. It was actually less than that, and I'm trying to cut him some slack in case he gets hammered. So, great stuff coming up, you guys. I will talk to you later, and see you on the inside. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.